if at all they are held this year, that is. But I can say that if you interrupt me, I will take 5 minutes more.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay. So you're not also as pretty as Muniz is.
I beg your pardon?
You're not as pretty as Muniz is.
See, now that's gender. This is another thing with his age he hasn't learnt. That you don't make gender observations anymore. In his time he did, which is why he's single. Okay. I will take 5 more minutes for every interruption. You see, the tragedy is the moderators in this country want to be speakers, but since they can't, then they moderate and then speak and interrupt. So let me get back to the issue. There are many things common between Pakistan and India. For every Munize, we have such a calm and docile Barkha. For every Kayani, we have a Kalmadi. For every decisive Gilani, we have a more decisive Manmohan Singh. For every young Qureshi, we have an old wise Krishna. Obviously, things are going to go wrong. I mean, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. Pranab Mukherjee went to Manmohan Singh and said, look, I don't want to be foreign minister because I'm old and I can't travel. So what did Manmohan Singh do? Make an older guy the foreign minister. So this is the way we handle the foreign ministry in our country. I'm not surprised we still haven't gone to war. I mean, we can't go to war because there's a seasonal impact. Our army doesn't want to war in winter. It's too damn tough. But on a serious note, and jokes apart, I think the point that Mani raised and that Preetha mentioned in her opening remarks and that Munize touched upon is, we are not serious about peace. We don't have a strategy for peace. We have a strategy for constant engagement between these two countries. We live from talks to talks, and that's where we end. Dialogues, we want to have bilaterals. There is no definite need amongst the politicians of today for everlasting peace. And the reason is because we've seen this relationship from the prism of politics. Countries that have united, whether it is Germany or whether it's large parts of Europe, have united on the back of economic reasons. It pays economically to unite. And part of that economics is what Mani touched upon, what Preetha touched upon. You don't need to spend crores and crores of rupees on Siachen when you can easily spend that kind of money on development. But the tragedy with India and Pakistan is we don't want development at the cost of polarized positions that we've adopted. So how do we break this logjam? We all know what the problem is. The problem is that there are hardened stands that have been taken by politicians in both countries, which politicians of today in either country don't want to move away from, lest they're seen as doves or seen as conciliatory. But the point is this needle has to move beyond the convenient, and it just hasn't. I really don't know what it will take for Pakistan and India to stop the shadow war, to stop destroying families across the border, from preventing people from living in harmony, from preventing companies in India and Pakistan from trading with each other without using Dubai as a conduit. I find this whole goddamn thing silly. But obviously it isn't silly for the politicians. It isn't silly for the bunch of jokers who've ruled our countries for so many years. Because obviously these guys don't think it important to have peace. These guys think it is important to have a stand, even when that stand is detrimental. Amartya Sen, in The Idea of Justice, brilliantly espouses, we all talk about the Mahabharata, and he says, what use was war, or is war, if in the wake of it, it leaves orphans and widows? What purpose does it serve? So my question is, what purpose does a hawkish stand against Pakistan serve? Does it serve Pakistan's interests? Pakistan may be the exporter of terror according to David Cameron and P. Chidambaram. We may be exporters of terror according to Gilani and Qureshi. How do we move this forward? Every time there are talks, there is a hardening of a stand. I'm a great believer, and I know I'm going to be killed by half the audience here. If Kashmir is an issue, then solve the goddamn issue. If we have promised a referendum, if we have, and if it's part of the United Nations Charter, then have a damn referendum. You cannot postpone the problem. And if you continue to postpone the problem, the pain that you will have in the interim is going to be substantive and enduring, which is exactly what's happening. See, we're fine. We're sitting in a town hall, poorly air-conditioned even though it may be, But then, so many years of Jyoti Basu living or working across the road, I don't blame the air conditioning for suffering. So, apart from us sitting and standing in this town hall, we are fine. But what happens to people at the border? What happens to people whose daily lives are being impacted and people who are suffering? People who've been declared. I have a friend called Jyoti Dandas, whose father is still declared missing in the 1965 war. And there's no recourse. You have an impotent foreign ministry in our country which doesn't want to take a stand on any issue. So all we can do is pay lip service to this whole India-Pakistan dialogue. I'm personally a believer that Pakistan and India showed their true colors when the borders of each country were opened during that cricket match. When I walked into Lahore and I walked in and asked for sandals and the guy refused to take money,